Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I know it's been a while, but recently I got a comment under one of my videos asking me to do a video on how to bag internships. And this was something that I felt like I had a lot to talk about from my personal experience, and this isn't a one-size-fits-all type of approach, but this is what has worked for me because over the past 3.5 years I've worked at around 15 different places, ranging from very, very small companies and initiatives to, much larger firms that are well established in the world of finance and consulting. I think there are a couple of things very early on, regardless of the size of the internship you're looking at, that you can start to do to demonstrate your talent and demonstrate your put-togetherness very early on. I think number one is building your own personal website. It sounds hard, but it is very, very easy to do these days with Wix and Squarespace. I highly recommend you take out a couple of days, make a Wix account for free, and make a personal website with your photo, things that you're interested in, the kind of skill sets you want to build, your major, and I'll attach my website here so that you can see what I did. It's a very, very shitty website now looking back because I made it in my first year, but I still think that it helped with the applications that I sent out because it clearly signaled to whoever I was sending this to that I had spent time into polishing my front end and I was really making an effort to market myself. The second thing is to build a strong resume. There are plenty of free guides that are a lot more sophisticated than anything I can tell you how to do, but I think Canva has some really good resume templates, and so if you're wondering how to format that information in a concise and meaningful way, pull up a Canva free template and sort of mix and match and market yourself and on the basis of your experience. If you're worried about what experience to put down, it can be anything from like hours that you've spent on hobbies, it can be specific initiatives that you've worked on, and if you feel like you don't have things to add to your resume of that nature, start doing those things and get yourself involved in clubs and societies and things like that so you can start to build up a certain identity from a professional standpoint. Now that you have your website and your resume, that's going to go into almost every application that you send out, just because it instantly humanizes and quantifies your personality, your capabilities, your talents, and it makes the job a lot easier for anybody that's trying to review whether or not you'd be a good fit for their organization. So now I'm going to divide the possible places that you can apply into Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 organizations. And I've worked at all of these places, and I'll give some examples of what these companies might look like and how your approach in applying has to be tweaked to fit what they're looking for. So let's start from the bottom, which are Tier 3 companies and organizations. So these are, student-led startups, very small initiatives, places that, have 10 to 20 members maximum that are just looking for an intern because they need an extra hand. These are often the easiest to get into, and they're a very good launchpad to start building skill sets and get a good feeler for what working for an organization looks like. When I was applying to Tier 3 internships, it was always, I think I had at least 2 of them going on every semester until this semester, and I would always find them via Internshala. And for anyone who's used Internshala before, it is kind of an arduous process, but it really works if you're willing to apply manually to multiple places. You can change a lot of the filters so that it fits something that you want to do. I mainly did a lot of content writing, I did marketing, I did videography, things like that. So not much related to my econ field, actually. A lot of it was just things that I was good at and things that I like to do, and that allowed me to do them in my free time and it not to feel as draining as so that way I was able to balance it with my semester. So these are the kinds of places that you're going to send in your website, you're going to send in your resume, and you're just going to apply again and again and again. And they're really good places to start as a starting point. And they're good internships to flank other professional movements. Tier 2 internships are boutique firms, usually 50 to 150 team members. These are well-established companies, but they're small and they may not be like the McKinseys and Bains of their industry. And I think they're a very, very good intermediary between Tier 3 and Tier 1 firms because they give you a level of credibility that a Tier 3 internship might not necessarily give you. And I think your best shot at getting these types of firms is to, one, apply well in advance to when you want to start working with them. So I used to start sending out my internship applications in November or December if I wanted to work with them in the next summer, so like May or June or July. So 6 months ahead of time, you want to start doing a couple of things. One, identifying maybe 20 to 30 different boutique firms that you'd like to work in, depending on your industry and depending on your interests. And from there, you're going to draft a cover letter for every single one of them. And all it is just a personal statement as to why that company resonates with you and why you would really like to work with them. A lot of the cover letters you can sort of mix and match, and a lot of the narrative will be the same because you will be presenting yourself as the same person. But I think going the extra mile and writing a cover letter for each of them and just tweaking it so that it's a little bit more company specific goes a long way in catching the company's attention, especially because these companies are smaller and tend to be able to pay a little bit more attention to the odd intern's email in their inbox. So just spend a month doing this and it'll likely pay off, because even if you send in 50 applications, you might get 1 or 2 back, and those could be very important leads in accelerating your professional journey. So finally we come to tier 1 internships. These are like the big shiny companies that everyone wants to work at, that has like a fat portal on their website that you're supposed to apply via, and everybody wants one of these names on their resume. I think after 4 years, the truth is that majority of the people that are able to bag an internship at one of these firms have connections, and they have some sort of leg in or something, or they have such amazing grades and such a ridiculously spectacular resume that they're able to catch the attention of the company in a slew of like 100,000 applications that come in via their portal. So if you are one of these people, you probably don't need this video that much. If you are not, here's what I think you can do to maximize the probability of getting your leg into one of these firms. I feel like there's this narrative that you need to be like the Olympic champion of financial modeling or whatever it is specific to your industry to bag an internship at the top firms. And a lot of the times that is true. But in case you're not, my advice is to be very, very open and to put the math in your favor. So that means getting, one, a recommendation letter from everybody else that you've interned at and putting that all together in a file, making that very easy for anybody who comes across your LinkedIn profile to access, cleaning up your LinkedIn profile very, very well, cold emailing and doing the follow-ups again and again, respectfully and not annoyingly. But more than anything, I think it's just talking to people and showing up at places where the likelihood of conversion is higher. So what I mean by this is conferences, showing up to talks of people that are like leaders in the space. Basically coming up with a map of where industry leaders are likely to be, putting yourself there and forcing yourself to have conversations with people. One of the biggest internships on my resume came from basically setting up a meeting and asking to speak with somebody who came to the college who was an industry leader, and I met them for breakfast and our conversation turned into 2-3 hours of conversation. I showed them my YouTube channel and eventually that turned into an internship that is probably one of the most valuable experiences that I've ever had in my life. Another example of this is during that internship, I was on a flight for one of the business trips. I actually made a video about it. And during the flight, there was somebody else. I had a big camera because I had to make an interview of somebody. And somebody else on the flight also had a very large camera, and they were sitting right in front of me. I asked them why they had such a big camera, and we ended up talking the entire flight. He ended up being the head of his own production agency, and he was on his way to do a campaign for Manish Malhotra's new makeup set or something like that. And I talked to him for so long on that flight that eventually he was nice enough to offer me an internship with them, and I wasn't able to take up that internship because I had college at the time. But the point is, had the schedules worked out, I think that conversation would have yielded possibly one of the biggest internships that would have made it onto my resume apart from the ones in finance. So I think the trick is to get the math in your favor, to talk to people, to take initiative and find hotspots of where industry leaders in your space are and to network with them. And by network, I don't mean being like a suck up or a kiss ass. It should be sort of open, sincere, and honest. You shouldn't come across as transactional or opportunistic. And I think it's just a question of not being scared of being told no. Like, the second you can get that out of your system and you can start consistently trying to get a yes and again and again and again without it taking a hit on your ego, that's when the math starts to line up in your favor. So these are my thoughts on getting an internship. All of these things are things that I did, and they are things that in the long run seem to have worked out. And I will re-emphasize that this is just my experience. It absolutely isn't a one-size-fits-all formula. I hope that it was helpful to you guys in some way. Please let me know if there are any questions or any thoughts. I'd love to hear your feedback, and I will see you next time.